Your education is supposed to be a map, right? A guide that you're handed to help you find your way to a successful future. But what happens when that map is, well, seriously out of date? When the landmarks have all moved and there's all this new treacherous terrain that's just appeared out of nowhere? That's what we're looking at today, Australia's educational crossroads.
Right, I want you to cast your mind back. Imagine you're 15 again. You're in a school hall, you're looking at this list of subjects, and you're being told that these choices, these are the ones that are going to set the course for the rest of your life. I mean, no pressure. It is a huge moment. But the really critical question we're digging into here is whether the very map these choices are based on is even pointing in the right direction anymore.
So what does this official map actually look like? Well, for most students in Australia, it's presented as a very clear, very structured set of decisions that you have to make at this crucial crossroads in your life.
So here it is. This is basically the instruction manual you get, pulled from a typical high school handbook. And it all seems incredibly logical, doesn't it? A 6-step plan to your future. First, you choose the big picture path. Are you aiming for university, or are you taking a different route? Then you just fill in the details. Pick subjects you need, subjects you're good at, subjects for your career, subjects for life. It all looks so straightforward.
And that very first step leads you to this massive fork in the road. On one side, you've got the ATAR pathway. That's the Australian tertiary admission rank. It's the big score that gets you in a uni, and it's filled with subjects like chemistry and specialist maths. On the other side, you've got the VET pathway. VET stands for Vocational Education and Training, and it's all about practical skills. Think building, hospitality, tourism, things that lead you straight into a trade or further training at TAFE. Two very distinct routes for two very different destinations.
But this is where the journey starts to get complicated. Because despite this really clearly drawn map, there are more and more signs that the destinations it promises, they don't quite match the reality of the landscape up ahead.
And here is the first massive red flag. A recent report is projecting a shortfall of 250,000 skilled workers in key areas like tech and finance by 2030. Think about that. The map seems to be guiding students away from the very destinations our economy desperately needs them to get to.
And at the same time, the map isn't working equally well for everyone who uses it. The latest PISA results, that's a global assessment of 15-year-olds, they point to a really worrying trend here in Australia. The gap between our best-performing students and our lowest-performing students is getting wider. The journey is becoming less and less fair.
Now, you might look at this and think, well, we're still above the OECD average, so what's the big deal? But that's not the whole story. Look at the long-term trend. Our performance is clearly sliding downwards, a nearly 16-point drop in maths over 10 years. So, yeah, we're still ahead of the pack, but we're definitely slowing down. This map, it's getting less effective over time. Right, as if that wasn't enough to worry about, a huge new feature has just appeared on the landscape. It was something that was supposed to make the journey easier, but instead, it's created a whole new set of dangers. I'm talking about technology.
Educational technology, or EdTech, came with this massive promise. It was going to free up teachers, it was going to engage students, it was going to prepare everyone for a digital future. But the reality? Well, it's been quite different. Research shows teachers just don't have the time to keep up. The tech can actually make that performance gap we just saw even wider. And this is the wildest part. Students' digital skills are actually getting worse.
I mean, just look at this. This is staggering. In 2008, 2/3 of Year 10 students were considered proficient in digital literacy. Fast forward to 2022, and that number has plummeted to less than half. We've put more tech into schools than ever, and somehow our students are becoming less skilled at using it in a meaningful way. That is a huge warning sign.
And that tech challenge has now escalated into an outright crisis with the arrival of AI. If technology was just treacherous new ground, AI is like a giant sinkhole that suddenly opened up right in the middle of our educational map.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It really captures how fast and how big this disruption is. The way students learn and the way we assess them has been fundamentally and probably permanently changed in just the last couple of years. This isn't some problem for the future, it is happening right now. And you can see how it's changing how students actually, well, study. The temptation to just outsource your learning is immense. There are reports that some students are now spending less time on a subject in an entire semester than they should in a single week. They're not learning the material, they're just managing a tool to get a task done.
Which brings us to this pretty terrifying question. If students can get the grades without doing the reading, the thinking, the writing, the struggling, what on earth are they actually learning? What foundational knowledge are they building? This is the sinkhole. It's the erosion of the very ground that all their future learning is supposed to be built on.
Okay, so the old map is flawed, the landscape is full of new dangers, it's a bit of a mess. So what do? Well, we have to start drawing a new map, one that's actually designed for the world as it is today, not as it was 20 years ago.
And a massive part of this new map isn't a better GPS, it's a completely different kind of tool. It's a compass. This is where human skills become absolutely essential. In a world where an AI can write a perfect essay, it's your self-awareness, your communication skills, your ability to solve problems creatively that actually make you stand out. These are the skills that let you navigate complexity and work with other people, things a machine just can't replicate.
And believe me, we desperately need to be teaching these skills. This isn't some fluffy, nice-to-have thing. Because even the students who succeed on the old map, the ones with amazing academic results, they're struggling. An astonishing 68% feel stressed out and not at all confident about starting work. They might have the technical knowledge, but they're missing the human skills to actually use it effectively.
The new map also means we have to completely rethink what we even mean by digital literacy. It can't just be about which buttons to press anymore. It has to be this deeper capability, the ability to critically evaluate information you find online, to create, to communicate, and to do all of that safely. This is a skill that has to be explicitly taught if we want to reverse that decline we saw earlier.
And you know what else a good map needs? It needs to show that there's more than one right destination. Our new map has to value all pathways equally. It has to show that routes like vocational education and training aren't a second-best option, but a vital, powerful, and direct route to a brilliant, skilled career. A truly flexible map needs lots of different routes, and they all need to be well signposted and respected.
So, look, we're at this huge turning point. The old map, which was all about what you know, is clearly failing us. The new map has to value something much more dynamic: how you learn, how you adapt, and how you interact with others. So the massive question we're left with isn't whether we need a new map, but how on earth do we build an education system that can finally teach both?